Hey guys, it's your boy, Ballface8020, back again with another great commentary. Sorry about all the short content. I know a lot of you guys like the longer stuff, and that's usually the content I prefer to make too. I just haven't had that much to say, and like I've said many times, it's impossible. Forcing it wouldn't work. You guys wouldn't want to see forced content. Trust me. So yeah, and then like on politics and the economy, a lot going on in the world. I'm sure you guys all really wanted to see Tim Walls's solar return chart. That's not gonna. I can't get Tim Walls's solar return chart because I can't find his birth time, so that's out. I will do a chart for Kamala's general election campaign when she officially accepts the nomination. I can't do it before that because I can't start the chart until I know her. I need to for the birth time of the chart. I need to know what time she begins her acceptance speech, which isn't set in stone. We won't know until she actually does it. And for the economy, I have gotten some emails, people asking about the economy. Right now, I just don't see anything major happening until October, so like late September at the earliest. So I don't really have anything new to say right now. Eventually, we will get to the politics and the economy. Maybe some more geopolitics, depending on how Ukraine and the Middle East turn out. I don't expect anything to happen with China or Taiwan until for another few years. But anyway, so we're back in the office with Uncle C. And again, very impressive the way he manages to keep not really reinventing himself because he's sort of always the same guy, but like getting new spins on it. So he's really into the Bible and God now. And I don't know if you guys know the expression that, prayer is the last refuge of a scoundrel. I'm not sure I would call Casey a scoundrel. I'm still not convinced. I don't know what to make of Casey. Like, I can't tell, is he a bad guy? Is he just weird? I think he's just weird. But then sometimes I think, like, what he's doing is bad. But then again, he believes in it, so it's not really, nefarious. Like, I don't know what to make of, I don't know what to make of Casey. I wouldn't call him a scoundrel. He does some scoundrelous things, I guess. He certainly hangs out with scoundrels, but he doesn't seem to know that they're scoundrels. But anyway, Casey's recently very into religion, but like the religion in the Bible. The thing is with Casey, like when he gets into these things, they're always in service of his overall aim, which is womanizing. And even the womanizing is in the service of his true aim, which is masculinity maxing. That's what his real obsession and passion is. So like sometimes he says, like before, that when he was going through that phase where he was saying, I don't really care about dating. I care about business and making money. It's not really about the business and making money. I'm sure he's passionate about that. But his even that it's making money is part of his like masculine empire building. It doesn't sound like he ran track, but he wasn't much of a sports guy. So everything Casey does is in service of like becoming this masculine ideal. That's his real passion. Like, yeah, I'm sure he likes women. I'm sure he likes business and making money, but it's all about him like trying to be good enough. And so he's got different ways, like I said, that he'll pursue it, different things that he'll pursue it. So everything he does, again, I'm redundant here, is about being like more masculine stuff. So that like when he has these other interests or these other ways of going about it, it's in service of that. Like, back when we started, before we started with Casey, like some of the previous videos, very into no fat. And then he went to really being into Stoicism. And then I mentioned earlier, business, all the stuff with relationships, women, blah, blah, blah. And now this God stuff, this God and this Bible stuff. So So it's kind of like what it was with Stoicism, where like, no, there's nothing wrong with reading the Bible or gaining insight, or at least trying to gain insight from the Bible, just like there was nothing wrong with Stoicism. But there's nothing in there's not really anything in Stoicism that's going to cultivate the kind of masculinity that Casey's interested in, or what Casey views as masculine virtue. Stoicism, yes, is about virtue, and you could say masculine virtue, at least in some ways, I guess at least. Maybe there's different ways, more masculine ways to approach the subject of virtue. I don't know, but basically it's about virtue, right? And that can be masculine. It doesn't necessarily have to be. So that part's good, but it's just not really what Casey, and you can go watch my old Stoicism video about it. It's just not really what Casey's interested in. Like it's not the ideal Casey's pursuing. And it's the same thing, with this biblical stuff. Like, can you use like biblical wisdom? It doesn't even have to be biblical, or just any religious wisdom, like it's stuff from the Vedas or from the Quran. Can you use the stuff in there to develop your masculinity? I don't know. I mean, maybe indirectly, but I wouldn't say that in any of those books or any type of like those types of things, they're not really, whether you can use them for that or not, that's not really their focus. So I would say that, and this is kind of what I tried to say before about the Stoicism, maybe to some extent Casey is right, and you can use these things to help develop masculinity, depending on what you mean by that. But ironically, it won't work for that if that's what you're attempting to use it for. They're really about developing virtue. And any masculinity that you develop is kind of a byproduct of developing the virtue. So the focus needs to be on the virtue, not on the masculinity. And, because if the focus is on the masculinity, you're not even really understanding it. You're not really understanding it. You're not developing virtue. And hopefully you guys could at least sort of understand when I say that, because I know I'm not explaining it well. And I once, a professor in college told me that there's no such thing as you know what you want to say, but you don't know how to say it. If you don't know how to say it, it means you don't really understand it yourself. You don't know what you want to say. I think there's a lot to that. I think in this case, it's an exception. I know exactly what I mean, but I don't know how to phrase it any clearer than I already did, which I'm guessing wasn't clear at all. But anyway, okay. So what Casey's doing is he like a lot of times in his videos now, he'll read something from scripture, sometimes from the New Testament, a lot of stuff from the Old Testament. He seems to really like Psalms that King David wrote. Oh, well, King David supposedly wrote them. I guess we don't know for certain. Who knows? But let's just assume, for the sake of argument, that King David wrote them. So one of the things, this one line that Casey really liked was this line for King David where he says, "Do not." I know I'm paraphrasing here. Do not waste your strength on women, those who bring down kings. So like women will weaken you. Don't waste your strength on them. Okay, where to start? First of all, King David had 17 wives, and I don't even know how many concubines. So I don't think he's the best example there. It may be like, I'm not saying it's not good advice, but, you kind of have to, take it with, like, look at who the source is. So yeah, I don't think that one is, again, maybe good advice, but again, like, yeah, I don't know. That's the first part. But the second part is, who is Casey to say who is Casey to endorse that advice? To say not to waste strength on women? Casey, your entire life is dedicated to women. Your entire professional career, your entire business, where you make all that money, is completely dedicated to women. And that's all you think about is women. Because to you, that's part of, now it's not for its own sake. I'll give Casey that. It's because women are just like the conduit, if that's the right word, through what Casey views his own masculinity. But that actually might be even worse. So like that's the so yeah, that's like there's some like major hypocrisy going on there. Like I'll cut King David some slack because who knows exactly what he was talking about. Maybe he meant like don't let them become, I don't know, maybe becomes a distraction, but he definitely wasn't saying like that it's not important to have relationships with women, because obviously he thought it was very important. So, with Casey, and then, but like, let's go to the next part, which is that whatever you think of King David, his words or his actions, I promise you, and I didn't know the guy, I didn't know King David, but when he wrote those Psalms, I guarantee you 100% he did not mean for them to be used in furtherness of Casey Zander's Mastering the Language of Women course. Yes, Casey used this line to pimp his Mastering the Language of Women course. So he used a line saying don't waste your strength on women to promote a course that he charges hundreds of dollars for, which is about how you should go about pursuing women. And the sad thing, and then, so like I know like a lot of people are saying, well, Casey's just a scammer. No. That would be preferable. No, Casey really is just that stupid. Not to hate on the guy or anything. Like it's just too much irony. No, I promise you that isn't what King David intended for those words to be. Just like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca and all the others didn't want when they were writing their Stoicism down or teaching Stoicism, they did not mean for it to be used in the service of Casey Zander's pathetic masculinity business. Sorry, excuse me. But, and then, so then another thing is, if you want to look at, I think it's like really problematic to just take, which what people do is they pick scriptures out of the Bible and then they quote them and they say like this is, and there's nothing wrong with that, I guess, in and of itself. The problem is that the Bible's pretty big. So anything you want to do, I mean, it's got to be interpreted within the context of the whole document. And or all the whole book, whatever you want to call it, the whole book, volume, whatever, the whole corpus, put it all together. And when you see a theme over and over in the Bible, in both the New and Testament, maybe not quite as much in the New Testament, but a lot in the Old Testament, but some in the New Testament, is a real emphasis on the importance of finding one woman. Finding one woman and, building a life with her. And that's, King David's son talks about that in Solomon, about how, just getting like a bunch of women isn't going to be fulfilling. You're going to, your best bet is to just get one and, build a life with her. And, the other stuff will let the other stuff take care of itself. So, which is like a very different message to what Casey's teaching. I know he sometimes says, well, it depends on what you want, because he has to say that for his business. But the fact of the matter is, Casey, the guy, and what he always cites is his own dating experience. It's like, that's right, you have dating experience. What you don't have is successful relationship experience. You were in a long-term relationship, and she broke your heart. And I'm sorry that happened. I don't know if it was because of your weirdness or just because that's how it happens, and you guys were both young, and it does happen. Since then, though, I know that there are women who have been interested in him. I mean, I know that because, I've seen it. Women do respond. Some women do respond well to him, at least at first. So for you to talk about mastering the language of women, well, then where is your woman? Because all I see is you talking, or hear is you talking about basically rotating through tons of them over and over and over again. And so you haven't mastered shit. You've maybe mastered the ability to have a harem or have a roster or run through a lot of different girls. But you're as bad at relationships as I am. You're as much of a failure on the relationship front as I am. So you don't understand shit about how to build a life with a woman. You can sleep with them. You can sleep with them. You can have them simp with you at least until they get bored. But that's all you can do. And you've shown, how long have you been single now? With no ability to make progress in any of these relationships. So you are the last person, I would go to say anybody to go to advice to. Now, if you were just marketing it as pickup, then okay, but that's not what you're doing. You said like, who knows exactly what you're doing, but if that was just the goal, if you were just going to say like, look, just forget about relationships, it's not worth it. Just, constantly run through women. It's like, okay, fine, you can do that, but then don't start citing Stoicism or King David. Like I've said to him before, pick a lane. That's all for now. See you in the next.